2. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1940, Constitution Act, 1940, 19. British North America Act, 1943, 6-7 George VI, C30, UK. The act is repealed. 20. British North America Act, 1946, 9-10 George VI, C63, UK. The act is repealed. 21. British North America Act, 1949, 12-13 George VI, C22, UK. Section 3 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 3. This act may be cited as the Newfoundland Act, 22. British North America, No. 2, Act, 1949, 13 George VI, C81, UK. The act is repealed. 23. British North America Act, 1951, 14-15 George VI, C32, UK. The act is repealed. 24. British North America Act, 1952, 1 Elizabeth II, C15, can. The act is repealed. 25. British North America Act, 1960, 9 Elizabeth II, C2, UK. Section 2 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 2. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1960, Constitution Act, 1960, 26. British North America Act, 1964, 12-13 Elizabeth II, C73, UK. Section 2 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 2. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1964, Constitution Act, 1964, 27. British North America Act, 1965, 14 Elizabeth II, C4, Part 1, can. Section 2 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 2. This part may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1965, Constitution Act, 1965, 28. British North America Act, 1974, 23 Elizabeth II, C13, Part 1, can. Section 3, as amended by 25-26 Elizabeth II, C28, S38, 1, can, is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 3. This part may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1974, Constitution Act, 1974, 29. British North America Act, 1975, 23-24 Elizabeth II, C28, Part 1, can. Section 3, as amended by 25-26 Elizabeth II, C28, S31, can, is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 3. This part may be cited as the Constitution Act, No. 1, 1975, Constitution Act, No. 1, 1975, 30. British North America Act, No. 2, 1975, 23-24 Elizabeth II, C53, can. Section 3 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 3. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, No. 2, 1975, Constitution Act, No. 2, 1975, Endnotes. 1. The enacting clause was repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act, 1893, 56-57 Victoria, C14, UK. It read as follows. Be it therefore enacted and declared by the Queen's most excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Lords Spiritual and Temporal and Commons, in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same, as follows. 2. As amended by the Constitution Act, 1982, which came into force on April 17, 1982, the section originally read as follows. 1. This act may be cited as the British North America Act, 1867. 3. Section 2, repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act, 1893, 56-57 Victoria, C14, UK, read as follows. 2. The provisions of this act referring to Her Majesty the Queen extend also to the heirs and successors of Her Majesty, Kings and Queens of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. 4. The first day of July, 1867, was fixed by proclamation dated May 22, 1867. 5. Partially repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act, 1893, 56-57 Victoria, C14, UK. The section originally read as follows: For the subsequent provisions of this act shall, unless it is otherwise expressed or implied, commence and have effect on and after the Union, that is to say, on and after the day appointed for the Union taking effect in the Queen's proclamation, and in the same provisions, unless it is otherwise expressed or implied, the name Canada shall be taken to mean Canada as constituted under this act. 6. Canada now consists of 10 provinces: Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, British Columbia, Prince Edward Island, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador, and 3 territories: Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. The first territories added to the Union were Rupert's Land and the Northwestern Territory, subsequently designated the Northwest Territories, which were admitted pursuant to Section 146 of the Constitution Act, 1867, and the Rupert's Land Act, 1868, 31-32 Victoria, C105, UK, by the Rupert's Land and Northwestern Territory Order of June 23, 1870, effective July 15, 1870. Prior to the admission of those territories, the Parliament of Canada enacted an Act for the temporary government of Rupert's Land and the Northwestern Territory when united with Canada, 32-33 Victoria, C3, and the Manitoba Act, 1870, 33 Victoria, C3, which provided for the formation of the province of Manitoba. British Columbia was admitted into the Union pursuant to Section 146 of the Constitution Act, 1867, by the British Columbia Terms of Union, being Order in Council of May 16, 1871, effective July 20, 1871. Prince Edward Island was admitted pursuant to Section 146 of the Constitution Act, 1867, by the Prince Edward Island Terms of Union, being Order in Council of June 26, 1873, effective July 1, 1873. On June 29, 1871, the United Kingdom Parliament enacted the Constitution Act, 1871, 34-35 Victoria, C28, authorizing the creation of additional provinces out of territories not included in any province. Pursuant to the statute, the Parliament of Canada enacted the Alberta Act, July 20, 1905, 4-5 Edward VII, C3, and the Saskatchewan Act, July 20, 1905, 4-5 Edward VII, C42, providing for the creation of the provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan, respectively. Both of these acts came into force on September 1, 1905. Meanwhile, all remaining British possessions and territories in North America and the islands adjacent thereto, except the colony of Newfoundland and its dependencies, were admitted into the Canadian Confederation by the Adjacent Territories Order, dated July 31, 1880. The Parliament of Canada added portions of the Northwest Territories to the adjoining provinces in 1912 by the Ontario Boundaries Extension Act, SC 1912, to George V, C40, the Quebec Boundaries Extension Act, 1912, to George V, C45, and the Manitoba Boundaries Extension Act, 1912, to George V, C32, and further additions were made to Manitoba by the Manitoba Boundaries Extension Act, 1930, 20-21 George V, C28. The Yukon Territory was created out of the Northwest Territories in 1898 by the Yukon Territory Act, 61 Victoria, C6, Can. Newfoundland was added on March 31, 1949, by the Newfoundland Act, 12-13 George VI, C22, UK, which ratified the terms of Union of Newfoundland with Canada. Nunavut was created out of the Northwest Territories in 1999 by the Nunavut Act, SC 1993, C28. 7. See end note 65 to section 129 below. 8. Repealed and re-enacted by the Parliament of Canada Act 1875, 38 to 39 Victoria, C 38, UK. The original section read as follows. 18. The privileges, immunities, and powers to be held, enjoyed, and exercised by the Senate, and by the House of Commons, and by the members thereof respectively shall be such as are from time to time defined by Act of the Parliament of Canada, but so that the same shall never exceed those at the passing of this Act held, enjoyed, and exercised by the Commons House of Parliament of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, and by the members thereof. 9. Spent. The first session of the first Parliament began on November 6, 1867. 10. Section 20, repealed by the Constitution Act, 1982, read as follows. 20. There shall be a session of the Parliament of Canada once at least in every year, so that 12 months shall not intervene between the last sitting of the Parliament in one session and its first sitting in the next session. Section 20 has been replaced by Section 5 of the Constitution Act, 1982, which provides that there shall be a sitting of Parliament at least once every 12 months. 11. As amended by the Constitution Act, 1915, 5 to 6 George V, C 45, UK, and modified by the Newfoundland Act, 12 to 13 George VI, C 22, UK, the Constitution Act. Number 2, 1975, SC 1974-1975-1976, C 53, and the Constitution Act, 1999, Nunavut, SC 1998, C 15, Part 2. The original section read as follows. 21. The Senate shall, subject to the provisions of this Act, consist of 72 members, who shall be styled senators. The Manitoba Act, 1870, added 2 senators for Manitoba. The British Columbia Terms of Union added 3. Upon admission of Prince Edward Island 4 more were provided by Section 147 of the Constitution Act, 1867, the Alberta Act, and the Saskatchewan Act each added 4. The Senate was reconstituted at 96. By the Constitution Act, 1915, 6 more senators were added upon union with Newfoundland, and 1 senator each was added for the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories. By the Constitution Act, Number 2, 1975, 1 senator was added for Nunavut. By the Constitution Act, 1999, Nunavut, 12. As amended by the Constitution Act, 1915, 5 to 6 George V, C 45, UK, the Newfoundland Act, 12 to 13 George VI, C 22, UK, the Constitution Act. Number 2, 1975, SC 1974-1975-1976, C 53, and the Constitution Act, 1999, Nunavut, SC 1998, C 15, Part 2. The original section read as follows. 22. In relation to the Constitution of the Senate, Canada shall be deemed to consist of 3 divisions,